Prepare to have your health questions answered here on Safe, Effective Natural Solutions with Dr. Todd Binkley, owner of Binkley Healing Center in downtown Ventura. Now, here's Dr. Todd.
Good afternoon. I'm Dr. Todd Binkley, board-certified doctor of non-force chiropractic and practitioner of functional medicine. What is functional medicine? Functional medicine means using standard diagnostic tests that all doctors use to identify earlier signs of stress on your various organs and tissues early enough that you can usually come up with a solution that doesn't require you to be on some kind of pharmaceutical for the rest of your life. Something involving better food, a little bit of exercise, and especially supplements. There's just so much amazing research that most people don't know about into how you can take special combinations of various nutrients in the right form at the right time that can make all the difference. Miracles can happen if you get the proper tests to identify what your body really needs and give it everything it needs to heal and repair the cells throughout your body. Your body is not a machine. It is a living organism, and cells must constantly be replaced. Some of the cells in your body are replaced every 24 hours. Other ones, like the bones and your nerves, are replaced every few years or so. The gut lining of your gut is frequently replaced, but the bottom line is you need nutrients. You need protein, and you need other nutrients for your body to be able to replace those cells effectively. Think of your body, think of your bloodstream in your body as a river of life. I have a beautiful poster of this in my office. Send me a text or an email. I'll send you a picture of it. I'm very proud of it because it's a metaphor that people say. It's an example, it's a visual that people say, oh, that really, if I get it now, that really makes sense. Your bloodstream is a river of life-supporting nutrients. And if there's imagine in your mind a picture of this river full of nutrients, or not, and there's construction crews waiting on both banks of the river, one place or another. The guys are sitting there with their equipment. They're ready to do a job. They're ready to heal and repair your pancreas, your liver, your kidneys, your bones, your joints, whatever it is that needs repairing, but they don't have the materials they need. They're just sitting there like they're on a break, shooting the breeze, nothing to do, because they don't have the things they need to do the job. They don't have the protein. They don't have the minerals. Very common deficiency of magnesium, calcium, molybdenum, selenium, chromium, zinc. Most people are deficient in most minerals because they're not in the soil anymore, so we don't get them in food anymore. So it's really important to get adequate minerals in your diet and a whole host of other things which we can always identify on testing. But what you want to know, that's the main purpose of testing, one of the main purposes, is to know if your river of life has all the nutrients in it that your body needs. Your body is different. You are as different on the inside as you are on the outside. And you have no idea how healthy you are, and you have no idea if your river of life has all the nutrients it needs to optimally heal and repair the cells that are constantly dying and needing to be replaced in your body. So when they're not replaced, when you don't have that material and those construction crews are just sitting there on the banks of your river of life with nothing to do because you didn't give your body the materials it needs, people chalk that up to, what it feels like when that's happening is people say, oh, it feels like I'm getting old. Well, that is not true. When you have major nutrient deficiencies that make it virtually impossible for your body to heal and repair itself, you're not getting old because the earth rotated on its axis another time. You're feeling old because you're not giving your body everything it needs to heal and repair itself. And you have no idea if that's happening now or not unless you test. People you love who don't feel as good as they should, who have been to doctors, a lot of people come to me and say, oh, I've been to 7 different doctors. I've been to the Mayo Clinic. I've been to UCLA. I've been to a dozen different, to the best, the biggest and the best. Everyone's always been to the biggest and the best doctors when they're frustrated, and they're still not getting the solution. And I have to ask them as gently as I can. These were all standard medical practitioners practicing mainstream Western medicine, right? Yeah, well, oftentimes, it's a little harsh, but oftentimes people who think they've tried everything and have been to a half a dozen different doctors or more, went to the same doctor a half a dozen times. They went to a doctor that does the same thing, standard Western medicine, which is essential for a lot of things, but if it's not working for you, there are alternatives. Functional medicine can often find you a way to address your condition without pharmaceuticals that you become dependent on for the rest of your life, and a natural solution with better food, exercise, and supplements to get you. It can feel like a miracle. All of a sudden, everything can change. When you feed your body, you fill your river of life with the nutrients your body needs to heal and repair itself. Send me your questions about any health-related topic. Dr. Binkley at BinkleyHealingCenter.com. DrBinkley at BinkleyHealingCenter.com. You can also text me. My cell is 805-218-3939. The ringer's always off, so you can send me a message anytime. If you leave a voicemail, I'll get back as soon as I can. It's usually a couple of days. If you send me a text, I'll get back to you right away because I love answering people's questions. And last week I talked about osteoporosis in depth, and one of the most common questions I got after that was, what is the difference between osteoporosis and osteoarthritis? I think I have one, I think I have the other, maybe I have both, I don't know. Well, it's very simple. Osteoporosis is the disease when your bones become more porous. Osteo means bone and porosis means porous. So osteoporosis is porous bones, less dense, brittle bones exposed to increased risk of fracture. Osteoarthritis, osteo, bone, arthro means joint, itis means inflammation. So osteoarthritis is the very, very common, not necessarily normal, but very common process of degenerative joint disease that people get as they get older from minor traumas, stress, and mostly neglect. So even osteoarthritis is not inevitable as you get older. It's very common as you get older, but that's only because a lot of people don't take care of themselves. They don't do sufficient exercise. They don't stretch. They don't relieve. People know that sedentary lifestyles dramatically increase your risk of arthritis, joint inflammation, and degeneration of those joints from that process anywhere in your body. But here's the thing. No one gets osteoarthritis uniformly throughout their body on their 70th or 60th or 80th birthday. No one gets osteoarthritis, the standard, quote-unquote, normal arthritis of aging, uniformly throughout their body. I'm going to say that again. No one gets arthritis in every joint in their body as they get older. Well, if it was a result of old age, then it should be about the same throughout your body. All the cells in your body, all of your joints are the same age. So if you don't have this condition in all of your joints, then it's probably not solely the result of having a few more birthdays. Most people only get arthritis in some joints. In the joints at the base of their neck and their upper back, in the joints at the base of their spine, in their hips, in their knees, in their shoulders. And sometimes this is a result of certain injuries, but most of the time it's the result of neglect, of allowing tissues, especially your muscles, to become short and tight and constricted over time from not stretching enough, mainly, but also from not doing sufficient exercise. But the important distinction is osteoarthritis. Arthro means joint, so arthritis means inflamed joints. Osteoarthritis is the most common form of arthritis in your joints. It has nothing to do with your bones. Osteoporosis is porotic bones from reduced bone density, which can also be remedied through exercise, but also a whole host of nutrients. So check out last week's episode where we talked about that in detail. Today's episode is going to be about the microbiome in your gut and disruptions to it, specifically with severe, even life-threatening infections of Clostridium difficile. So this is a common bug that people get, a gut infection that people often get in the hospital where they're exposed to more risk factors than elsewhere. But there was a report that came out based on analyzed data, CDC's data, Wonder Public Health Database from 1999 to 2023, the search for deaths, in which Clostridium difficile was one of the primary diagnoses in people of any age. And one of the things they found, the headline finding, is that mortality rates from this type of infection have fallen steadily since 2016, but it continues to take an uneven lethal toll based on sex, demographics, and location. And this is what was really surprising. So it was 216,000 deaths from this type of infection of the gut, and the vast majority of them, 71%, happened in hospitals. And 15% were in nursing homes or long-term care facilities. Women accounted for a disproportionate 58% of deaths. 88% or 83.8% of the deaths were in metropolitan areas, while 16% were in rural areas, said Dr. Ashgar, MD of Advent Health in Sebring, Florida, and colleagues. So the study's most striking finding was that the group at greatest risk, traditionally deaths from infection, tend to fall disproportionately on groups with limited healthcare access or low socioeconomic status. And this was the opposite. In the white population with more resources, more access to health care than most other people, these are the ones that had the highest risk. More than 4 out of 5 deaths from this bug in your gut, 84% were in white patients, a group that is more likely to be exposed to risk factors such as antibiotics, spending time in hospitals and nursing homes, and taking proton pump inhibitors. These are acid-blocking drugs like omeprazole, Prilosec, etc. And so Black African Americans accounted for 8.1% compared to 84% in the white population, and Latinos had only 5.5%. So keep in mind that race actually has nothing to do with the variation of risk shown in this report. This was a study done on a broad population all over the country, and if you are Black or Latino and spend a lot of time in hospitals on antibiotics, or are taking any kind of acid-blocking drug like omeprazole, Prilosec, Prevacid, Nexium, even Tums or Tagamet over-the-counter, any acid-blocking drug, this is one of the most common things. It's increasing your risk. Acid-blocking drugs disable your body's main defense against any kind of bug in the gut. And what is that? Does anybody know? Raise your hand. What do you think? What would you imagine is your body's main defense in getting an infection in your gut? Well, here it is. The acid in your stomach. And so many people have heartburn or other conditions, and there's ways to address that without taking acid-blocking drugs. Well, that's the subject of several other episodes I've done before. Send me your questions. Explain how we can do that for you if that's your issue. But you want your stomach to be a boiling cauldron of strong acid, because that is your first line of defense against any bugs. Your food is full of bugs. Everything you eat and drink, there's bugs everywhere, bacteria, little viruses, parasites in your food, potentially. And your stomach, a boiling cauldron of strong acid in your stomach, kills those bugs before they can get into your intestines and replicate and grow wild and cause what you experience as food poisoning or some other kind of gastrointestinal infection and inflammation. So the answer is not taking acid-blocking drugs. You need that acid to kill those bugs. If you take a lot of them, you're at a dramatically increased risk of one of the worst infections you can get that even can be fatal, and you don't get any warning. You end up in the hospital for some unrelated condition, and you get C. diff. If you know a nurse, ask them about C. diff. If you know anybody who works in a hospital in any capacity, everyone knows about this. It's one of the things that they have massive protocols for sanitizing everything. One of the things they're trying to prevent is the spread of this disease, because they know that's the most common place people get C. diff is in a hospital or a nursing home. So antibiotics also weaken your gut microbiome and make it less able to defend against an infection of one of these bad bacteria. So sometimes antibiotics are necessary. But anytime you take antibiotics, it's important to rebuild the healthy gut bacteria with a specific strain of probiotics. The best way to do that for most people is to take, for a month, just 1 month, a specific probiotic. Send me an email, shoot me a text if you want to know what that is. It's called Saccharomyces boulardii. Most people have never heard of that. If you want to know more about that, shoot me a text, shoot me an email. Dr. Binkley at BinkleyHealingCenter.com. My cell is 805-218-3939. Send me a text. Let me know if you'd like to talk on the phone. Happy to do that too. My phone ringer's always off, but I love answering your questions. I've been doing this for about 35 years now. I went to what a lot of people call the Harvard of Chiropractic, Palmer College of Chiropractic, established back in 1895. And for the past 25 of the 35 years I've been in practice, I've been focusing a lot of my practice, 2/3, 3/4, depending on the year, on functional medicine. Most of the things that I talk about on this show, identifying earlier signs of stress on your various organs and tissues with standard diagnostic tests, blood tests, urine tests, hair tests, saliva tests, sometimes stool tests, especially for the gut. There are ways to find out if you are not getting the solution you're looking for with your doctor. If you've been to a half a dozen or a dozen doctors in the Mayo Clinic, UCLA, wherever, it doesn't matter. They all mostly do the same thing. If you've been to several doctors who all practice Western medicine and they haven't figured out what's wrong with you or given you or someone you love a solution that works, have them give me a call. And don't wait. People say, oh, but you're listening to this right now. You're probably thinking of people that you know, hey, I know somebody who could really use that. Call them right now. Tell them to get in touch with me. If you wait, you'll forget about it. They'll forget about it. It'll never happen. The only way anything ever happens is if you take action while you're thinking about it, make it happen, or at least write it down. People come into me all the time and say, oh my God, this is so amazing. I wish I would have come to you 5 years ago, 10 years ago. Yeah, well, tell all those other people you know that are waiting 5 and 10 years to finally identify what they actually need to heal and repair themselves. I'm Dr. Todd Binkley. You're listening to Safe, Effective, Natural Solutions to Almost Any Health Challenge. Today we're talking about C. diff, Clostridium difficile, one of the deadly infections in your gut, bad bacteria in your gut, which if the wrong strain and too much of it, if you're exposed to that and your immune system is weak and your microbiome in your gut is so dysbiotic, imbalanced, lacks the resources it needs to fight off that bug, then you can end up with severe food poisoning, systemic inflammation. It can even cause death. So who do you know who takes antibiotics every year? This is one of the main things that destroys the healthy microbiome in your gut. Or, maybe you know someone who just took them recently and ever since then has had a little bit more gas or fatigue, bloating, nausea, constipation, diarrhea, any gut-related symptom. Who do you know who's had any one of those symptoms even since the last time they took antibiotics? Well, these are often signs of a severe underlying health condition that left untreated can get worse. Gut inflammation can result in bleeding, which can increase your risk of another infection that could affect any part of your body, starting in the gut. It can result in anemia from the bleeding and especially fatigue. The inflammation, the disruption in nutrient absorption, the disruption in your healthy gut microbiome, and the anemia from the bleeding, all of these things can cause unexplained fatigue. The disruption in your neurotransmitters. There are more receptors for the happy chemicals, serotonin. There are more receptors for serotonin in your gut than there are in your brain. So very, very often, if you know someone who's not feeling well, feels miserable, has fatigue, brain fog, lack of concentration, just doesn't feel like themselves anymore, and they've been to however many doctors and no one had done the blood work, and they always say, oh, you're fine. Well, they haven't even checked to see if you're healthy. They've just checked to see if you have a severe medical condition that warrants standard Western medical treatment, drugs, right now. The standard medical workup does not even assess whether or not you're healthy. It just assesses whether you need medical care right now. There are other tests that can identify things that actually explain why you're having the symptoms. Why do you still feel miserable even when supposedly all your tests are normal? Well, that's because they didn't do enough tests, and oftentimes because the metrics they use for those tests are too broad. If you're within this broad range, you're fine. Come back next week when you're worse. Well, there's a better way to measure the importance of variations in variables on all of your blood tests. That's what functional medicine is based on, a narrower range on standard tests that's identifying not whether or not you have a disease today, but whether or not you are healthy right now, whether or not your body is getting all the nutrients it needs to heal and repair itself. The health of your gut microbiome is directly linked to the health of your brain. Disruptions in a healthy balance of good bacteria versus the bad bacteria in your gut can cause an increased risk of depression, anxiety, Alzheimer's, dementia, and Parkinson's disease. A lot of conditions that we long thought were solely the province of the brain, and neurotransmitters or hormones, other parts of the body, start in the gut. If you've ever experienced butterflies in your stomach, or any kind of cramping or discomfort in your gut when you're scared or anxious or worried about something, then you're feeling the effects of inflammation, muscle spasm, sometimes dysbiosis, and impaired absorption of nutrients in your gut that's affecting your brain in that moment. Who do you know who has brain fog, who can't concentrate, or who has fatigue for no reason? Many times these conditions are the result, especially if no one has been able to figure out what's causing them. It's because of something going on in your gut, and we can test for these things. Oh, I've been to my doctor, he tested everything. No doctor ever tests anything. Even if your regular doctor did a stool test, it probably tested a handful of things. The comprehensive stool tests are not covered by insurance, but by and large, you can get a comprehensive stool test, and this is a test that uses microscopy, culturing bad bacteria. It tests for virtually every known bacteria, the common bacteria, viruses, parasites, worms, nematodes, anything that your gut is going to be exposed to. It's about $425 for this stool test. It's a 3-day collection. If you only collect one day, you're going to miss things. This lab, Doctor's Data, is the lab I recommend. There's a couple other good ones. Ask me about those if you like. This is the one that I prefer. And you get about a 16-page report, line by line, detailing the first 3 or 4 pages is talking about your healthy gut microbiome. That's the most important thing. Do you have a good balance of healthy bacteria that's there to protect, fight off the bad bacteria, keep everything in balance, help your body absorb nutrients that are necessary? You can be eating good food and not be absorbing the nutrients from that good food because you need healthy bacteria to finish that process of breaking down those nutrients so that your body can absorb them. You are not what you eat. You are what you consume, and your body is able to break down and get to enter your bloodstream. If it doesn't enter your bloodstream, your gut is just kind of like a tube that goes through from one end to the other, and is not really part of you until it passes through the linings of your intestine and enters your bloodstream. So a lot of people, oh yeah, I've heard about that. I know the gut's important, and I know I should be, eating better food. Well, you have no idea. The people you love that aren't getting the health care, the health solutions that they need. If you're not sure, if you're feeling any symptoms that you have no idea what's possible unless you get the proper testing done. And most people, hardly anyone gets this type of stool test. It's often indicated it's a good idea for anyone to check at least once to see what is your gut microbiome doing. Do you have the healthy bacteria you need to keep the bad bacteria in balance? Do you have a minor infection of some horrible bug that your body's never been able to completely fight off? We can identify these with a comprehensive stool test. So don't wait till it gets worse. When you identify signs earlier, any sign of stress on your organs and systems throughout your body, especially in your gut, then you catch it early enough that you can come up with a solution that doesn't make you miserable. Maybe just eating a few more different foods or taking especially some evidence-based supplements. So just to recap on this study, it was surprising to these researchers that the people at highest risk for mortality from Clostridium difficile were in Rhode Island and Maine. The highest mortality rates, 25-year period, at 6.5 and 4.6 per 100,000 people. Hawaii and Alaska had the lowest rates, 0.77 and 0.96 people per 100,000. The bigger takeaway is that the mortality rate from C. diff increased from 1999 at 0.5 per 100,000 patients, increasing over sevenfold to 3.6 people per 100,000 in 2006. So 7 years, it went up sevenfold, and it's mostly driven by antibiotic-resistant pathogens from overuse of antibiotics. And so this is what the researcher closed with. The irrational use of antibiotics has been one of the most important risk factors associated with this infection in recent years. And so yes, sometimes antibiotics are necessary, but if you've taken them, you should get good probiotic to rebuild the gut flora in your body. And this incidence of this infection is just still way too high. And especially if you take any kind of acid-blocking drugs, antibiotics, insufficient acid is what causes overpopulation of bad bacteria in the gut. Antibiotics kill all those good bacteria off. There are ways to test to make sure that you have a healthy balance of good bacteria offsetting the bad ones. Send me your questions, anything related to any aspect of health and disease, so I can help you find a solution to what's been missing and get you feeling better as soon as possible. The longer you wait, the more difficult, more expensive, more of a hassle it is. You don't have to take drugs. You can find a safe, effective, natural solution to almost any health challenge. Thank you for tuning in. Have a fantastic weekend.
You've been listening to Safe, Effective, Natural Solutions with Dr. Todd Binkley. If you have a health question you want discussed on the show, email your health questions to Dr. Binkley at binkleyhealingcenter.com. Take advantage of this opportunity to ask questions for yourself and for your loved ones, because our health matters. Join him next Friday at 2 p.m. for safe, effective natural solutions here on 98.3 FM, The Word.